Smith, who is the Senior Associate Provost for Academic Affairs, and Don Cotton, the Associate Provost for Research. We're also grateful to have all 5 of our deans here with us tonight. From the College of Engineering, we have Dean Jack Hopper, Dean Hollis Lowry Moore from the College of Education and Human Development, Dean Brenda Nichols from the College of Arts and Sciences, Dean Russ Schultz from the College of Fine Arts and Communication, and Dean Henry Venta from the College of Business. We also have with us several of our past Distinguished Alumni Awards recipients, and we appreciate y'all being here. Dr. Carolyn Crawford, Joe Domino, Bud Leonard, Ray Moore, Paula O'Neill, and Homer Wallace. We also have in our audience tonight a good number of alumni board members, and so I won't introduce all of them individually, but if you are currently on the Alumni Advisory Board or have ever served on the Alumni Board, if you could stand and be recognized, please. Thank you all so much for being here. We are indeed fortunate to have Jill Roy as the chair of the Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee. Jill is a dedicated and diligent volunteer and advocate and a very, very good friend of Lamar University. We're honored to have her leading our program this evening. Jill.
Good evening. Let me also welcome each of you this evening as we offer recognition to the recipients of the Lamar University Distinguished Alumni Award. My name is Jill Roy. It is my privilege to serve as chairperson of the Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee. In an effort to give you some insight into the nomination and selection process, here are the steps that are taken. First, the Alumni Office accepts nominations over a 30-day period. Packets are then assembled for each nominee and given to the selection committee. The selection committee has the responsibility of reviewing each packet and narrowing down the slate of nominees. As you can imagine, this is a very difficult process. The Alumni Association is fortunate to have many alumni who are very deserving of this award. This year, we are pleased to honor 3 distinguished alumni. And so, this evening, sit back and enjoy the awards presentation. Since 1998, Lamar University has been on a track of success. That success can be attributed to the vision and transformational leadership of Lamar University's president, Dr. Jimmy Simmons. Dr. Simmons is Lamar's 10th president and the first to be a native of Southeast Texas. His Lamar career began in 1970 when he joined the faculty as an instructor and director of the marching band. He rose through the ranks, serving as director of bands, chair of the Department of Music, Dean of the College of Fine Arts and Communications, and interim director of University Advancement. Since assuming the Lamar presidency, Dr. Simmons has led the university into a new era of academic growth. He increased enrollment, reshaped the campus, and inspired excellence at all levels of the educational experience. Dr. Simmons is also well known as a musician. His musical and instrumental skills range from performing on clarinet, the saxophone, and piano, to orchestra leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jimmy Simmons.
What a nice introduction, Jill. You know, I get a lot of credit, but I want to tell you first I have to introduce my wife, who deserves just as much, Susan Simmons. And we have a tremendous group of leaders at this university. Many of them are introduced tonight. And again, I want to tell all of you how much I appreciate your hard work and dedication to this university. This is my favorite event of the year, tonight is. And what a great way to end a week of celebration here at Lamar University. We were able to name the Department of Electrical Engineering and the College of Engineering the Philip M. Dreher Department of Electrical Engineering, thanks to a $5 million gift from the Drehers. That was a wonderful event that we just finished. And Camille Mouton and her staff say there's just more to come, right, Camille? And this is probably the greatest day in Beaumont this year. What a beautiful, beautiful day. Joe, you don't have to worry about Umberto or Rita. What a great day. And I have to tell you, I can't pass up this opportunity to give you a little bit of good news about this university. Of course, Clara, Randy, and Bob, we want to tell you how very proud we are of you, and we look forward to these introductions that are soon to come. Just a little bit of good news about this university. Our enrollment is back to our pre-Rita levels. And that's in part due to a wonderful program we have right now with one of our honorees tonight, Randy Best. Randy has helped us with a master's degree program that is online, and we have about a little over 300 students in it right now, and we're expecting more than 6,000 before the year's over, right, Randy? And I hear our dean here is coughing a little bit, but of course we aim for the sky. When we were looking at our SAT scores this year, in the last 8 years, we looked at them, and we have 20% more students with SATs over 1,200 than we had 8 years ago. And understand, this is the verbal and the quantitative only. Many parents look at the SAT scores and see 3 scores, but this is just the first 2, the verbal and the quantitative. Our full-time students, when I became president, we had a little over 4,000 full-time students. This fall, we had more than 7,500 full-time students. And many of those are students who are under the age of 24, and 2,000 of them live right there on our campus. And I live right there too, okay? And we talk about this wonderful recreational sports facility that we have, the kids call it the Sheila. And we hope that they spend hours and hours in the Sheila and work off all of their young frustrations so that they go to sleep a little earlier at night. We have begun some new scholarship programs this year. One is the Mirabeau Scholars, and these are students that applied to us with SATs of over 1,250. We now have 33 of them, and they're on full scholarship at Lamar University. The average SAT is 1,350. These are fully funded privately. We are going to increase this number to 45 this next fall. These are the cream of the crop, outstanding students who open up pathways to wonderful high schools throughout this state of Texas. We also have begun the Legends Scholarship, and we have 9 of those students on campus this fall. David Beck has begun 2 Beck Fellowships, and those will be full rides for students, plus an extra $10,000 every summer for European travel and study. And finally, I have to say, I see Don Cotton back there, our new Associate Vice President for Research, and Don and Jack Hopper, who, in addition to being Dean, Jack is also Executive Assistant to the President for Industrial Relations and Economic Development. And these 2 gentlemen have increased our research proposals by more than 30%. And as I tell them, they're getting ready, I hope, to triple our federal funding for research on this campus in the next several years. And I can't leave here without bragging about our golf team. You know, they were number 3 in the nation, and people say, yeah, but that's small time. I said, no, it's Stanford, Georgia, Lamar University. and the bottom 10 were Texas and A&M. So they were right up there at the top. Well, I thank you for this time, and again, I want to tell our honorees tonight how very proud we are of you, and I'll turn the program back over to Jill. Thank you, Jill.
To introduce our first recipient, please welcome Dr. Henry Venta from the College of Business.
Oh, good evening. I hope you had as good a dinner as I did. We ate the same thing, so. Typically, a distinguished alumnus would be introduced by the dean of the college that he or she graduated from. But I'm a lucky guy, because since we are celebrating the distinguished career of Randy Best, and that achievements have been primarily in business, I'm the lucky guy that gets to introduce him. So it's my honor to get to introduce Randy Best. Randy grew up in Beaumont, graduated from Lamar University in 1967, and left a mark on our community even before he graduated. At Lamar University, Randy discovered his affinity for entrepreneurship. He started 7 businesses during his college years. At one point, he had 42 Lamar students under his employment. Among his ventures were publishing companies, Greek Line and Sabine Nations Football Roundup, Collegiate Diamond, a company selling engagement rings. Randy always has a knack for the right market opportunity. At that time, 28% of all college students got engaged or married each year. Randy's greatest success while at Lamar University was Goldlands, a manufacturer of class rings. Instead of the usual process of selling directly to the students, Goldlands was able to deliver rings in a much shorter time, in about 2 weeks, by selling through retail jewelry stores. When he was just 25, he and his partner sold the company to Beatrice Foods for around $10 million, when $10 million was really $10 million. Randy's business career continued to flourish in the decades that followed, and included the merchant banking firm of Mason Best, an enterprise in healthcare, real estate, energy, and probably many other things that I failed to mention. The ideas of Bob Buford, author of the book Halftime, prompted Randy to make a change. In Randy's own words, in that book, he suggested that people who have had successful business careers at some point should start giving back. As he put it, they should transition from success to significance. So, in around 1995, Randy began to sell his companies, determined to become a social entrepreneur by using the skills he gained in the business world and applying them to the public sector. The target of his efforts would be public education. Randy was inspired by his struggle with reading in high school due to his undiagnosed acute dyslexia. So difficult was, I understand, I wasn't there, but I understand, that so difficult was senior English for Randy that he likely would have failed it, but for his teacher's offer of extra credit to anyone who would memorize poetry. And he made his first A in English by memorizing volumes of poetry that year, and I know that made his mom real happy. Randy's idea to improve the outcome of public education became Voyager Expanded Learning, a private-public partnership that provides in-school core reading programs, reading intervention programs, and professional development programs for teachers. Voyager is boosting student and teacher success in school districts across the nation by addressing the 2 major challenges in public education today: teacher certification and student literacy. Since Voyager, Randy has continued to be active in the field of education and currently has partnered with Lamar University to provide master's levels programs for teachers in school districts throughout Texas using an innovative delivery system. Randy and his wife Nancy live in Dallas and are both active in civic pursuits ranging from Dallas County Community College District Foundation to the Dallas Citizens Council, universal giving. I was chatting with Nancy during dinner, visits to Liberia, changing the world, all that kind of good stuff that we all want to do. Randy has also been active at Lamar University, where he serves on the College of Business Board of Advisors. In preparing these remarks, I looked at an article that was published in Cadence in 2003. And Randy said in that article, "The most enjoyable years of my life were spent at Lamar University." We're proud to be able to call Randy a Lamar University alumnus. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Randy Best as a distinguished alumnus.
Thank you very, very much, Henry. I appreciate those remarks. You brought back some memories, some pleasant, some not. Starting businesses, as many in this room know, is a challenge. My sincerest appreciation to the Alumni Association for this award. It means a great deal to me, and I'm most grateful. I'm also most grateful for Lamar University. It gave me a great education, and for the many professors and others here who took a personal interest over a long period of time in my future. One of the great regrets I have is waiting so long to come back to Lamar. When I left Lamar, it was years before I got back. And I came back to see some of the professors whose lectures I remembered for decades, and many were gone. Dr. Fornell, for example, I think many of you remember him. We used to go when there was some world event. We would all go to his class and sit on the floor just to listen to what he had to say about it. Remarkable people. And their memories, I think, live and will live in all of our hearts forever. I want to thank also a number of my classmates for being here. It must be really boring tonight in Beaumont. We can find anything else to do, but let me thank Danny Clayton and his new bride, Jerry Reese and Sheila Reese, Jordan Rogers and Will Crenshaw, and Peggy and Joy, all of you for being here. I'm sincerely appreciative. Let me also thank somebody who counseled me on a daily basis when I was at Lamar, George McLaughlin. You know how much you've meant to me and mean to me now. George got me out of endless scrapes and has a lot of stories to tell. When I came to Lamar, I was confused, I was frightened, I knew I couldn't read, and I was most uncertain about the future. When I left, I had a lot more confidence than I did when I came, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. All of my early business partners are here. Will Crenshaw, we started most of the business you heard about. I started with Will or with Jerry, and we had a great time. We would ride down the road imagining ourselves as billionaires, tycoons, and it was a fabulous experience dreaming about the future. And you know, for both of those guys, most of those dreams came true. I also want to agree with one thing Henry said. The years I spent at Lamar were clearly the happiest years of my youth, and my graduation from this institution was the proudest moment in my parents' lives. Over the last year, I've reconnected with Lamar, which has been a tremendous experience. To know its leaders and its faculty again has made me profoundly proud of this institution and impressed with their vision, their courage, their willingness to set new standards for the delivery of a high-quality education to the underserved. Today in the United States, as we know, many people cannot afford a college education because of the escalation or the inflation of tuition. Many people believe, in fact, our governor has recently said, that a college education is becoming an impossible dream. We believe here at Lamar that something about that can be done to bring a college education, a quality college education like this university is so well known for, to millions of people or thousands of people Sorry, Jimmy. Just a slip of the tongue. Thousands of people who today don't have one. I think most of us believe that the fastest way to improve the achievement of our students in public schools is through improving instructional quality. And I believe the best way to do that is for all of them to have a master's degree from Lamar University.
Mr. Bess, thank you for coming back to Lamar and sharing the reality of your dream. Congratulations. Dr. Brenda Nichols, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, will introduce our next recipient.
Good evening. It is, in fact, a joy to be here tonight, and as Dr. Simmons so wonderfully pointed out, what a great time to be at Lamar and to be celebrating the accomplishments of some of the most wonderful people around. And I am going to say Dr. Randy Best is my graduate, not Henry's, okay? He never told you what he got a degree in from Lamar, okay? So now I get to do the other one, since I get to do 2 out of 3. It is a great pleasure to introduce Claire Brown Cooper. Claire, one of our faculty members said, had the most wonderful smile, the most desire to learn, the most hunger for knowledge, and she ended up being the executive director for Target Hunger in Houston, Texas. And so I kind of thought it was really appropriate that we come back to somebody who learned, who desired so much, who seeks so much to help other people learn. She is surrounded tonight by her family and friends, her mom and her sisters, and she's actually a Lamar graduate twice, but not Lamar University. Once was Lamar High School. That's somewhere over that way. And Target Hunger is one of those wonderful organizations that seeks not just to provide food, but also a way to sustain yourself. Target Hunger serves more than 8,500 people. It produces and then distributes foodstuffs through 12 food pantries, 5 senior daycare centers, 12 gardens, community gardens where people go and they grow the food and can come and get the produce themselves, and then home deliveries. Claire earned a Bachelor of Science in Sociology. I will tell you what she graduated with, but not when. She went to work immediately after here from working with Big Brother and Big Sister in Houston, and she said she just answered an ad that kind of said wanted somebody to work with children. She began working for them and worked for them for about 4 years and went to work then for the United Way in Houston as a fund development specialist, where she coordinated fundraising efforts and activities for all of the related United Way groups. In addition to that, she managed to go back and get an MBA. Her volunteer experiences include a gubernatorial appointment from George W. Bush on State Employee Charitable Campaign Advisory Committee, a former board chair for the Campfire Boys and Girls of Greater Houston, the United Way of Houston as chair of the agency division for the community campaigns. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. She volunteers as part of the Reading Academy for that group. She works as a board member on the Houston Food Bank. She serves on their nominating committee. She is a member of the Windsor Village United Methodist Church. She serves in the youth ministry and the women's choir. She shared with me that she wasn't real sure how the Lamar song went, so I tried to sing, at which point she cut me off. Those of you know that I sing with much more enthusiasm than I do talent, and Claire was trying to go, if you can't do anything else, you can go wah, wah, wah. I thought that was a hint. Claire is currently serving as a key member of the Windsor Village Kingdom Builders Centers, and she takes a lead in attracting proven groups to make her organization bigger. They work with a number of areas. She is an advocate for senior services.
Oh, good evening. I am truly honored that the Lamar University Association, Alumni Association, chose me to be this year's recipient. I know my family members and friends know that I am not one that's usually short on words. But one thing I don't like to do is talk about myself. I don't mind talking about my agency or the places that I volunteer, but I get a little quiet and teary when I talk about myself. But again, thank you. First and foremost, I want to recognize performance professors myself. Dr. Smith, thank you for everything. My last year graduate, I remember you needed a teacher assistant, and I don't know if you remember that, you said, hey, I have an opening, and actually that was a great way to end my years here as tutoring Sociology 101 to new students, which I know Dr. Lamar, I'd like to recognize you. I think I told him earlier that if you didn't pass Dr. Lamar's class, you didn't graduate. And I made sure I graduated. And he remembered, he said, oh, Clara, I remember you. You got to be out of my class. And I said, yes. But he didn't realize, but I got so excited when I was in that class, I was trying to strive for an A. So, but the final was a little hard. So, but anyway, but thank you anyway. It is truly an honor. I want to make sure that I recognize my family members. I have my brother in front of me, his wife, my sister-in-law Kim, my sister Fatima, my mother, stepfather the Drakes, my husband Travis, and my son is in the back somewhere. He'll be back up again. But the second table, I do want to recognize family friends Regina Drake, Christina Steele, my aunt and uncle, the Clarks, but also my other aunt, Frances Drake. But more importantly, I wanted to make sure that not only that my son was here, but I wanted to make sure that two of my nephews were here, because they really, really, really needed to get their feet, on ground, on the college ground, instead of, we just can't wait till they get into high school to introduce them to college. They really need to see it now. So for that, I hate to do this, but with my two nephews, Dwayne Johnson and Rashmir Sims, please stand. Because I was talking to Dr. Nichols, I really want them to take a tour. It's not, I know you may say, Dr. Simmons, well, you really want them to come here, but it's more important that they really go somewhere. And my son knows going to college is not an option. We don't stop at the 12th grade. He knows he has to go on further. But let's talk about tonight. Why am I here? And again, for social services, I remember about almost a year ago when I had my youngest child, Camille, my mother told me, and my mother's always been if you know me, my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. She said, "Ooh, you have the third one. You're gonna have to slow down." And I said, "What do you mean you have to slow down? You're gonna have to give up all your volunteer stuff. You can't do anything anymore." And actually, more came. Actually, Rotary came after that. More committees on the Houston Food Bank. Actually, I do more. So sorry, Mom. That's one time I didn't listen to you, but look at me now. So good. But I can't tell my son. I'm glad he stepped out so he can't hear that. But when Juan sent me the email, Juan contacted me and told me, he said, well, you're receiving the award this year. And I said, me? He said, yes. And I said, why me? And he said, well, why not you? And I thought about it. I said, well, thank you. What does that mean? He said, and then I'm glad Ms. Roy mentioned about the process that you have to go through to receive this award. But it started me to think when he talked about, because you're in community services, and he said, more importantly, in this award, only 2 people who actually worked in social service received this award. So I really feel honored about that. But the more I thought about me and volunteering, I said, I work in the community. But I also think it's more important that if you work in social services, you too need to also volunteer. So I can't stop doing that because there's so many other causes that are out there that I really believe in, and they really need people. And so I hate to say when my mom said, well, why you? And I have to go back. Why not me? And why not everybody when it's time to go back and take the time to serve people in the community? But I also thought about why I do this and where did I get it from? And I started reflecting at why do people volunteer? Why do they give back to the community? Why do they serve others? Maybe it's because someone took the time out to help them and they feel compelled to go and help others. Others, as I hear Mr. Best, he has the means and the capabilities to do so. Or maybe you just think that whatever you're doing, you're making the difference. But for me, it's a little bit of all of that. And I look back in my life in terms of where did I get it from? My biggest role model, and that's my mom, Beverly Drake. Please stand. And I thought about about my, please stand, Mom. I thought about my mother in terms of, you know, with 4 kids, running up to the school, volunteering in PTA. My sister and I were campfire, I think it was not boys and girls then, it was campfire girls at the time, and I remember being the campfire girls from 2nd grade up into 9th grade, and I remember my mother volunteering, chaperoning 16 girls from Houston to 3 hours away to Camp Winnewaca, from fundraisings and even chairing her United Way campaign at work. So I like to think I had a little to do with the chairing the United Way campaign, but I saw firsthand. So that makes me think leading by examples and following others. So for that, Mom, thank you for showing me how to do that. I appreciate that. But I also think about, you know, when you go out and do others, you have to have a stable life. You have to be balanced. You're no good at helping others if you're not in a good position to do so. And for that, and I know my husband is a type of person, he'd rather be behind the scene. He doesn't like to take credit for anything, but I can't do what I do without having the love and support of my husband. So baby, please stand. I know you don't want to be on the spot. Please, come on, wave your hand at least. Can you please do that? Thank you. Oh, my husband, I tell you, if it's not from telling him we have one more fundraisers to go to, we have another gala to go to, going to, you know, whatever type of charity work, you know, I need an escort. Can you please show up with me? You know, one more rubber chicken dinner. I'm glad it wasn't chicken tonight. He's there. And I appreciate it. My mother's not. I really appreciate that he's there for me to do that, because I feel good knowing that he's there by my side supporting me so I can continue to do my work. And to give you a short, you know, so how you stepped in yesterday, he had to rearrange his schedule to pick up the girls because I had a board meeting with the Houston Food Bank yesterday, a board retreat. And I said, sweetheart, can you pick the baby up? Because the retreat doesn't end until 6 o'clock. So he said, okay, but but that's what, you know, he said yes. That's a good thing about it. He said yes at the last minute, and I appreciate him for doing that. Last, why do we do it? At the end of the day, when our life is over, we have to be accountable for something, or accountable to someone. And for me, I know I have to be accountable to God. But as a mother, my children, I have to be accountable to them as well. And I do it because so my children, my son who made it back, that's Travis. At the end of the day, he can say that I saw my mother do it. And I want my girls to say the same thing. There's other people who don't have, and then, you know, somebody needs to step in and do it. And I recall about 4 Christmases ago, my sorority, we adopt families each year for Christmas. And I remember, you know, we're out buying things. He looked in the back seat. He said, "Ooh, is that for me?" And I, unfortunately, had to tell him. He hates the story. I said, "No, baby, this is not for you. This actually is for, you know, with our, you know, sorority adopted families out for Christmas, and it's for," and I told him the reason why, because if we don't help, then those families, in particular those kids, don't have any type of gifts for Christmas. So he looked at it and he walked away. I remember he went on, and we went in the house and started wrapping stuff. But the best recognition that he gave me, and I said, not in competition with the award, he came back to me and he touched me and he said, "Mom, that's very nice of you that you helped someone out." So if I can, at the end of the day, hear my children say that to me, that's the biggest reward that I can ever get. So not slighting the award tonight, but I have to do it for them. So just like my mother did it for me, I want to be able to do that for my children. Thank you all. I love you all. Thank you for my family for being here. I'm not going to cry, but thank you all for being here. I appreciate everything. And I, too, like Randy said, I'm sorry that I took so long for me to come back. So, and I'm going to make this an annual thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper, for coming back and bringing the next generation. And thank you also for not listening to your mom. And to introduce our final recipient, Dr. Jack Cooper, Dean of the College of Engineering, will be coming forward.
Charlie, you'll have to raise this up when you get here. It really is a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to make this presentation, because this is a very special person. And as I sat there at the table tonight talking to his brother, there's a lot more stories than I even are able to bring into this, what I'm going to tell you tonight. but their roots go deep into Beaumont and South Park and Lamar from way back. You could call it a lucky break, although at the time it probably didn't seem lucky at all. For if it wasn't for a football injury, this year's Distinguished Alumni recipient might have been running for the Green Bay Packers in the first Super Bowl in 1967. Can you believe that? This is a fellow that earned 12 letters, 4 letters in every sport at French High School. Is that right? My goodness. He came to Lamar to play football, and then he left and go to the Army. Instead, a second fracture in his right leg sidelined Charles Cutler's football career. Fortunately, he realized that a career in chemical engineering would at least be less crippling. He started at Lamar first in 1954, and after service in the Army, he returned to his studies at Lamar, graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering in 1961, and went to work for Shell Oil Company. There's another story there, but I will have to hold that one until later. There he would conceive and implement the concept of a control algorithm named dynamic matrix control, which would save the petrochemical or petroleum industry millions of dollars. The budding of this dynamic matrix control theory was the subject of his dissertation in 1967 from the University of Houston, and was demonstrated on a fluid catalytic cracking unit 6 years later in Shell's New Orleans refinery. Cutler had implemented a real-time optimization and computer control system on the fluid catalytic cracking unit. He was promoted to process manager of the unit. He says, "I was in the right place at the right time." It was during this period that the plant's union went on strike, so Charlie had the opportunity to implement his computer control on the FCC unit. The huge success of his development led to the publication of the oft-cited publication, Dynamic Matrix Control, a computer control algorithm, presented at the National Meeting of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers in 1979. In talking with Dr. Lee, he told me that just this fall, he was in China for the 2007 International Process System Engineering Conference, and he was introduced to the manager of Aspen Tech in China. Now, Charlie sold his company to Aspen Tech, which I'll tell you a little about later. And so this manager of Aspen Tech in China was introduced to Dr. Lee, a professor at Lamar University. The Aspen Tech manager, who happened to be an MIT graduate, made the comment he had never heard of Lamar. Dr. Lee asked him, "Do you know Charlie Cutler?" To which the Aspen manager replied, "Do you mean the creator of DMC?" "Oh, yes, yes." Dr. Lee was pleased to tell him that Charlie Cutler is a Lamar graduate. Dr. Lee now says he has a way to introduce Lamar University to the world. Charlie later earned a PhD in chemical engineering at the University of Houston. In 1984, he resigned from Shell and founded Dynamic Matrix Control Corporation. Several months later, his son-in-law, Charles Johnson, dropped his dental practice and joined him in this endeavor. This was 2 years before the first commercial software to configure a multi-variable controller became available in the form of DMC controller software. In '86, a DMC controller was installed on a Sunoco hydrocracker. The first time the controller was turned on, the optimizer reduced the energy usage 15%. For those of you who are buying gasoline, you might know how much that's worth. Soon, every petroleum company had to have a DMC. Texaco engineers once said in a technical presentation that DMC was saving $15,000 to $25,000 a day on their FCC unit at the Port Arthur, Texas refinery alone. In 1996, Aspen Technology of Cambridge, Massachusetts, suggested a merger with Charlie, but instead he decided to sell to him. He worked for Aspen for 2 years after the sale, then retired temporarily to his ranch in Barksdale, Texas. In 2000, he again teamed with his son-in-law Johnson to create Cutler Johnson Corporation. Aspen Tech helped create the graphical user interface for this process, and 2 years of development later, Universal Process Identification, UPID, resulted, permitting the creation of an open-loop model control that could be used in training simulator. Now, when I was about this time, I was trying to get Charlie to join the advisory council of the College of Engineering, and he kept telling me, well, he was too far away and he was too busy. So I said, where is Barksdale, Texas? And he said, well, it's the last watering hole before you get to the desert. So in one of my calls out to Barksdale, I got a hold of his wife, June, and I told her I was trying to get Charlie to join my council and that he was too far away. And she said, well, it won't be too long, since he's got me out here raising these goats and we're going to be moving back to town pretty soon. In March 2000, Cutler Johnson Corporation moved from Houston to the ranch in Barksdale, and then, after several years of so-called retirement, while Charlie and his wife, June Cutler, raised goats in Barksdale, Charlie decided to move his newly found company to San Antonio. In October 2005, Cutler Technology Corporation launched ADMC, the world's first adaptive multivariable controller. ADMC uses a patented open-loop model solving many of the problems associated with the controller and yielding again 2 to 3% capacity gain on catalytic cracker, resulting in saving of $10,000 to $15,000 a day. This Distinguished Alumni Award is not the first time Charles has been recognized for his outstanding achievements. The American Institute of Chemical Engineers awarded him the Computing and Systems Technology Division's Best Practice Award, and he received the American Control Conference's Engineering Practice Award. In 2000, he was elected to the most prestigious of all engineering societies, National Academy of Engineering, and has been named Engineer of the Year by Control Magazine and was inducted to their Hall of Fame in 2003. Charles' commitment to higher education is evident in his many affiliations with universities across Texas. He is a member of the Industrial Advisory Board for the Chemical Engineering Department of the University of Houston and serves as an adjunct professor in the Chemical Engineering Department at Texas Tech. Most importantly, for me and for Lamar, at Lamar University, Charles is a member of the Engineering Advisory Council and the Chemical Engineering PhD Advisory Council, and was a speaker at our All College of Engineering Seminar, Spring Seminar in 2006. It is with true cardinal pride that we recognize a Redbird of great distinction and national and international renown, Dr. Charles Cutler.
Well, I do want to thank all of the members of the committee that nominated me and put me up here tonight. Appreciate that. I want to thank all of my friends and family that showed up here to celebrate this event for me. I am very proud and pleased to have received this award. And I was waiting for Jack to introduce me before I decided what I was going to say. I wasn't sure what he was going to say, what kind of stories he might tell, and how much time I needed for rebuttal. But he was pretty kind to me. Thank you, Jack. Coming up here, I was thinking of what I might say, and there's been I guess thousands of thoughts run through my mind about what I would like to say. But I've kind of landed on a couple of thoughts. Going through my life, I've had changed course a number of times, and in each case, it was an unplanned event that created that change. Jack mentioned one of them a little bit earlier tonight when I broke my leg out here. I'd come back to Lamar from the service. I went back to playing football again, and I broke my leg again for the second time. So at that point in time, I was headed towards being a coach, and that breaking that leg put me back into engineering. So, and that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because I would have probably been a kind of a lousy coach. It turned out to be a reasonably good engineer. So anyway, that was one event. Another event that I thought of that kind of had a big influence on my life was actually coming here to Lamar. And there's a story behind that. I had, I guess, my senior year in high school, late in that year, I ended up marrying my wife, and I did it while I was still in school. She had been a freshman out here at Lamar. She's a year or two older than me. But let me hasten to say she looks about 10 years younger. But at any rate, the way I ended up here at Lamar was because of that marriage, because I had a football scholarship to about a half a dozen schools, among them Texas A&M, which I was kind of thinking about going. And since I got married, they weren't too keen on, at the time it was all core, so they weren't too keen on me coming there with a wife. So I ended up staying here in Beaumont, which is my home, and going to work at Lamar, or going to school at Lamar. So that event, marrying my wife basically, and I've been married to her for 53 years now. So. And I don't want to digress on that too far, but that's the best thing that ever happened to me, was marrying that girl. And anyway, it was that event that sent me to Lamar, and so I'm very proud of having been here. And I also want to tell you that in my years with Shell, which you guys may not know this, but I ended up being a senior manager at Shell, and I had access to all the records and understanding Shell and the way Shell ran their business. And Shell recruits from most of the Ivy League schools and the bigger engineering schools in the Midwest and East. And they take only the top 10% of the class. If you're not in the top 10% grade-wise, they don't really consider you seriously. So I've worked with over the years. Worked with men at MIT, Princeton, Stanford, etc., bigger engineering schools. And I'll tell you, I didn't have any trouble competing with those guys with the education I got here at Lamar. The fact is. So I felt very rewarded for having been here, and I look forward to trying to help Jack out some more here in the future. At any rate, I want to thank you all again for the award, and look forward to seeing you again maybe next year.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler, but most especially thank you, Mrs. Cutler, for nabbing him and keeping him here. Well, I have to apologize to Dr. Hopper. I called you Dr. Hooper. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Well, this concludes the evening. There's a few people I need to thank, all of you guys, for coming tonight. I also want to take a moment to recognize a few instrumental people, the Alumni Affairs staff, to Juan Zavala, the executive director, and I have a special thanks to him. I didn't run this morning, and he's made me walk up here so many times, so I think I've worked off everything that I've eaten tonight. To Linda LeBlanc, the assistant director, and to Evie Clifton, the administrative associate, for putting this evening together. Special thank you to Lorraine Thibodeau, director of the reception center, for the dinner logistics, and to Professor Bessie Hines for playing the piano. And also a very special thanks to Frank Messina for providing the wine. before we end, I'm just going to ask all of the awardees and the previous recipients to gather at the piano for photographs. And at this time, I'd like to call Mrs. Leonard to come forward to lead us in the alma mater.
Why don't we all stand as we close? The words are in your program.